Wow. I am quite properly embarrassed by this. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, your weekly bonanza of broken cars. If you've been following my channel, you'll notice that I got quite a few things going on here. We just had some problems with the Jeep, and last week I actually had to take my Jeep to the mechanic. It turns out the problem that I fixed was actually not the problem that I was having. So it's back from mechanic, but it is still broken, and that's a topic for a different week. I've also got some issues that cropped up with the Miata, and we're probably going to cover that in next week's video. You haven't seen much from the Maverick lately, and that's because, well, it gets 8 miles per gallon, so it's not really my driver's car. And in order to have a fun car like that on the road, I got to get my daily drivers on the road, the ones that I need to rely on. So the Maverick will be coming up pretty soon, but not for a few more weeks. Same thing with the TR7. I've actually got a major problem with the clutch line, and really the whole rest of the car is a problem. So I really want to get started on that eventually, but that is probably a couple months out. Same with the Studebaker. The Studebaker starts and runs but doesn't stop. I need to address that really before I can do anything else to that truck. The motorcycle runs great. There's nothing wrong with the motorcycle, but in case you haven't noticed, motorcycle isn't a car. I said all of my cars are broken. Prelude is having a problem where it intermittently seems to be losing fuel, or fuel pressure, or something or other. And I think that has a lot to do with a fuel cutoff switch I have, which is going to bring us to the topic of this week's video, kill switch. I'm going to show you this because I'm going to take this entire system out. It's really a very basic setup, and I'm going to go with something a little bit more, let's say, refined. So I'm not going to show you my new setup because, well, for one, I haven't done it yet, and I'm not going to show you because I don't want to show you how to steal the car. I will talk about some basics of kill switches, some of the options you have, but it really comes down to you need to know your car, and more importantly, you need to know the system so that when something goes wrong, like what I'm about to show you, you'll know how to diagnose it and fix it without having to share any information to anybody else in the world. You want to be the only one that can start your car. It's kind of like that scene from Back to the Future where old Biff goes back in time, gets in young Biff's car and starts it up, and young Biff is all, "How'd you know how to do that? No one can start this car but me." Yeah, you want to be Biff. You want to be the only one that can start your car. So let's get to work, and let's start taking some things apart and try to see what happened. Before we get into the weeds, let's talk about some of the basics of a kill switch. There are some things you want to achieve when you're installing a kill switch in your car in order to actually deter people. The reason I say that is because, especially with these older cars with aftermarket alarms, anytime you have an aftermarket alarm, immobilizer, or whatever, and you take it to a shop, that shop is going to put it in the exact same location. It's going to be under the dash, probably on the left side of the driver, and it's going to be this little box that you just rip out and reconnect the wires for the ignition. And by the way, they always cut the ignition wire that goes into your steering column. Always. And so what happens is over time, that ignition control box, the relay that they have switching back and forth, that'll go bad, which means your alarm will go bad, and that will leave you stranded on the side of the road. That's exactly what happened to my Jeep. Is definitely what not to do. First off, you want the controls for whatever immobilizer technique you intend to use to not be in reach of the driver's seat, or at least not be intuitively in reach of the driver's seat. First, they're going to look for controls on the dashboard, and then they're going to reach underneath the dashboard and see what they can pull out with their hands. You want something to be as far away from the driver as possible, but is still convenient enough that you can easily get to it. And also, easily get to it without drawing too much attention to yourself. Now, you don't want your kill switch to be like hidden underneath the car where you have to put a jack under it and then reach under. That's going to draw a lot of attention. You want something that is kind of just, out of the way, out of reach, but make it look like you're, reaching for a bag in the back or something, or, wherever you put this thing, you should have it accessible in such a way that people aren't going to know if they're watching you at your car. Secondly, you want your, really ideally, some kind of fuel cutoff mechanism. And the reason for that is if someone is looking to steal your car and they come in and they, break your ignition lock, they go and the car doesn't even fire. They're going to know something's up with your ignition system. They're going to know that you have some kind of immobilizer in your car. Let me show you what happens when you have a fuel cutoff installed in your car instead of, or in lieu of, your ignition cutoff. That happens. Now my battery is a little bit low, so my cranking is a little bit slow, but the car doesn't start. And so if you're looking to steal a car and you think you have an easy target, you break the lock cylinder and it just cranks and cranks and cranks. Well, especially in an old ass car like this, it could be anything. It could be an immobilizer, but maybe this car is just a piece of crap. And well, you might not be wrong, but this is definitely going to sow the seed of doubt of, I'm going to get this car and I'm going to get it out of here and to whatever shop I can get it to in order to chop it up. In my opinion, is a great theft deterrent, is to just make the car not desirable in the first place. Beyond that, maybe you can do a setup where you have both an ignition and a fuel. That way they solve one problem. They find a way to bypass the ignition. Maybe they try to kickstart it, or maybe they stick a screwdriver on the starter, whatever, get it to fire. But then because there's also no fuel, well, that just makes things that much more complicated. That's another really great technique, is to have two different ways of immobilizing the car. Another great thing to do is to make your switch complex. Daisy chain it to another switch so that things have to be in a certain specific configuration in order for the car to run or start. It's another great thing. Do a combination of these things, but the most important thing is that you do it yourself and you know this system inside and out, so that inevitably when something goes wrong, you'll be able to diagnose it and fix it. Let's take a look at my actual fuel cutoff. Something I did right. I had it out of the way of the driver's seat. Something I did very wrong, which is probably the cause of all of these problems. It's just wires wrapped in tape hanging on a switch that's just kind of dangling there. That's a really, really, really bad kill switch. Now, I was kind of tucking it in back here every now and again, but after a while, I just resorted to just leaving it like that. This is a fuel cutoff switch that goes directly into the fuel pump, which is down here. So I have cut the wire directly over the fuel pump and ran it up here. And that's actually not terrible, cutting it back here, because the point of where it is disconnected is far out of the way of the driver's seat, somewhere where not only is it not something people intuitively think to go to, but it's also quite difficult to get back here. Let's say this switch is much better hidden than that. Even if you know that the point of separation, even if you knew that you could bypass that whole circuit by just reconnecting these wires, you're going to have to take out all this crap in order to get here, which is why this project is not something I'm looking forward to. But anyway, so I did some things right. I did some things very, very, very wrong. And this, I believe, is why my car is cutting out while I'm driving it. Now at Radwood, I had flipped it off so that I could leave the windows down, walk away from it, and not worry at all about this car. And when I came back, I flipped it back on, and I had a couple of shutters on my way home. I thought that was just because there may have been an air bubble in the line or something. But then it happened the next day, twice, while I was driving with my wife. So I really want to address this, and maybe I can address this little mess up here too while I'm in here. And I want to make this right. I want to do a really nice field cutoff kill switch type of setup. Just for not only for my own pride, but also to make this car a little more secure. So in order to undo this switch, there's kind of a lot going on back here. Um, yeah, I got to take all of this out, including the battery, and then take out the platform that it's on, which is made of wood, so that I can access the fuel pump. The reason I got to do that is because I have no idea what kind of wiring job I did on that switch, and I'm sure it's probably terrible. So I want to really get to, the original wires and then reconnect those together, and then I can test to see if the switch has failed. Because if I remove all of that and the car runs just fine, I know exactly what the problem was. It was the switch or the wiring to the switch or both, and I can very easily replace that. So first thing I need to do is obviously take out the stereo equipment. I just need to take out the subwoofers first, and then I need to discharge the capacitor with that fuse that is tucked away behind the battery. And then I can remove the battery and then take out the amplifiers. It's a lot easier to remove it than it is to put it in. This is like a couple hours to put it all back together uh, because I have to get all the channels correct. It sucks. All right, let's get to it. So there's quite a bit going on here. I definitely have not forgotten about my trunk relay just kind of hanging out there. I do want to address that before I close this up and finalize everything. But in the meantime, we are going to focus on the problem at hand and try to ignore everything else. So, couple of things. This harness goes nowhere, so I don't think I care about it being really janky. However, let's go inside the car for a minute. We're inside the car, and we've got these wires that could probably benefit from having a grommet. Same with these and these. This may even be something important, and they're just sitting here getting cut up by the body of the car. So we're going to definitely address this after I figure out what's going on with the switch. So let's pop this open and take a look at what I've done. If anyone has a time machine, please let me know, because there's a certain 20-something-year-old that I need to have a word with. This was my kill switch. Don't do this. Don't ever do this. I haven't even opened up the other side of this wire, and this is very potentially the problem I've been having. Oh boy. Let's keep going. Wow. I am quite properly embarrassed by this. And while I was peeling the tape off of this side, this end of this butt connector just pulled right out. So I have a butt connector and then a twist connection. I don't know what the hell to call that. And then another, I don't know what the hell to call that. So clearly I didn't have enough wire. I revisited this multiple times, or something really weird went down. And it's entirely my fault. I don't remember doing this, so maybe I was drunk or something. I don't know. But God, this is bad. Um, I'm surprised the car ran as well as it did. Just need to keep unwrapping wire until I expose the original connection, which is going to be somewhere in here, and then I can reconnect it and take the car for a test drive. Oh, finally, I got down to the original wires. So let's take a look at the carnage here. I have about 50,000 miles of tape, whole bunch of butt connectors, and apparently I at least tried to waterproof it by using some shrink tubing, and I guess I must have heated it with a cigarette lighter because, yeah, that didn't actually seal it up. The other side obviously just pulled right out because I did not have the right clamps to connect the wire into this butt connector. And then I did this thing you see here. So, yeah, regardless of whether or not this solves the problem, which I think it will, I am sure glad to be cleaning this up because, wow, this is really, really bad. So maybe I'm going to undo some of this stuff too. Just disconnect all this crap or just cut the wires. Because, like I said, this goes nowhere. So I can just get rid of this entire thing and then start to clean up this nightmare. And then down here, I'm going to recrimp with proper butt connectors, waterproof butt connectors, wrap it in conduit, and maybe not mummify it in tape because that was truly awful. And over here, I'm gonna see if I can salvage this mess here. This gets really close to the connector itself, so I may see if these will just pull right off just like it did on the other side. And I don't know, maybe I can repin this connector. Actually, I might in fact do that because that's going to be probably the best solution to this problem. If I just repin it and run it with a long pigtail, I can run my new kill switch wherever the heck I want, and I may still keep a kill switch. It's definitely going to have to be something that is a little more sustainable than just this guy dangling wherever I feel like running it. In order to test my theory, before I run my new kill switch, I do have to connect these wires up to the fuel pump without a switch in it. And so I'm probably going to try to repair this, use some butt connectors to extend waterproof connectors to extend this little harness over here into this plug and then into the fuel pump itself. That way I can test to see if this was actually the problem before I go run a new kill switch. And I'm not going to run a new kill. I'm not going to show you running the new kill switch, but you're going to have to figure that out on your own. There's plenty of tutorial videos. I just don't want to show you where I'm running my new kill switch on my car. Got everything wired up back there. It's very temporary. It is far from done, but I've got the new connector. I've got the new wiring. It's all joined together with heat shrink tubing. They are waterproof connectors too. And then I've put conduit over that and tape over that. So it should stand up to being underneath the car. So I'm not really worried about that. I am mostly worried that this actually wasn't the car the problem was having. With my luck, I just solved a different problem that the car was also having. But there's only one way to find out. We're going to start it up and take it for a drive. I have not started this car up in 3 or 4 weeks now. So this will be fun. So far, so good. And it's raining, so hopefully this car doesn't leave me stranded. That'll be a lot more fun. I'm not going far though, I'm just gonna go for a test drive around the block. And I am running over something. Okay, I'll be right back. It's just a piece of wood from another unfinished project, nothing to worry about. aside from the fact that I have another unfinished project. We're also going to get a good test of the taillight gaskets that I put in to see if that solved the leak that I was having in the trunk. By the way, the Jeep and the Miata that I'm passing right now, both leak. So, more projects. Go ahead and turn the heat on. It is cold out here. So really all I'm looking for is to be able to drive around the block without power cutting out, because that's what was happening to me. It was like it wasn't getting fuel. Intermittently it would just shut down. So far so good. Alright, well, what's my plan next? If this works out, next I definitely have to clean all of this up and put it all back together. There's a couple of things I want to clean up with the stereo as well. I'd also like to address that relay that's just hanging out there. The only real problem is that I don't have a lot of time, and if I can put this car at least into temporary service, even without all of that stuff dialed in, I'm gonna take it. I need things to be not broken. So this is a good enough state of not broken for now. Assuming we make it around the block without any problems. While this Prelude is on the road for now, I'm going to finish my construction project across town that I'm not sharing with you guys on camera, and then I'm going to circle back to the Jeep. I've got some updates there, and we got quite a bit of work to do, so I'll be taking it on that journey as well for sure. And then after that I will probably start working on this. I actually got the Miata as well. Got an update on the Miata. After that, we're gonna do some work on the Prelude. We're at least gonna dial this all in again, get it fixed up and working. And then I've got a major project that I have in store for the Prelude as well, sometime early next year, I hope. So everything seems to be working just fine. I think I'm gonna call this a win. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for coming on this journey. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, comment. If you don't like what you see, leave a comment anyway. I am butchering a classic 34-year-old Honda after all. It's only fair for you to leave a comment, especially if you hate what I'm doing. Either way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.